football game. I'm at the grocery store. What? I'm at the combination football game and grocery store.
Wait, you're at the football game and the grocery store?
Nah, I'm at the combination football game and grocery store. Groceries through Instacart, delivered to my door. I don't have to choose between football and the grocery store.
Royce Christyn, I got the book, and they sent me Scripting the Life You Want, and I thought, okay, well, so what am I going to script right now? This had just hit when we were starting to see people going into self-isolation, lockdown, all the things, the pandemic stuff started hitting the U.S. I'm like, so I thought, well, I'll just ask Royce, how do we script ourselves out of this?
There's a lot of things you can do, and I don't make any promises that I can't keep. In fact, in the very opening of the book, in the introduction, I say, and this book was written at the very end of 2018 or beginning of 2019, but I said in the introduction, thankfully, but I also really wanted to make sure this got out there in the book. I don't say scripting can heal you of some terrible illness. Go to the doctor, and that's right up there in the front. And thank goodness, looking at the times that we're in, that this wasn't one of those self-help or new age books that says that you can, heal yourself right out of anything, especially with the coronavirus. So how do you script your way out of it? There's a lot of things that I think you could do to script your way out of any mental anguish. This is a great book for mental health and a really funny book and a fun book, because we dive into a lot of paranormal science and really groundbreaking tech and what's coming up in the future. And there's a lot of tools that I teach and I talk about in this book that anybody could do at home. You don't need anything special. You can even play with a quantum computer using an app on your phone if you have it, a smartphone called the Fatum Bot. And that is one of the most fun things that you can possibly do. And you can do it while you're on lockdown. Just stay 6 feet apart from anybody else. The distances in your town. But, I don't know if it's as much about scripting your way out of the coronavirus as it is using the tools that I teach to, get yourself in a happier place mentally, but also, scripting, my technique and my version is very unique. I've used it in my life, as I talk about in the book, to manifest, starring, being a lead guest star on Wizards of Waverly Place on Disney Channel with Selena Gomez. And I got my soulmate. I've got lots of money this way. I mean, it's such a weirdly powerful process that anyone can do. And it's just so much fun, and it's so easy. And there's a lot of results. So I would look at it more for anybody out there listening, as a book that you can read or you can buy on the Kindle or the ebook version of it or the audiobook. And it's something to do that not only is fun, and I think there's a lot of really amazing, I'm still just so excited. I'm sure you can hear my voice about the science and the crazy stuff that's coming out in the world of, not just quantum mechanics, but there's a whole range of things I talk about. You can learn about all these exciting things that are coming in the future, and you can play, and you can use it as a tool, like maybe we would have used board games 20 years ago or 50 years ago for a situation like this. This book is a very action-oriented book, but it's action at home or out in your yard or your neighborhood that you can do safely during this time. So do I think there's a way to script your way out of the coronavirus? Mentally, yes. And I think physically, inevitably, it's going to be helpful. I know it's helpful for people. But I'm not going to promise anybody that if they script that the coronavirus has disappeared, that's going to happen tomorrow. I hope it does. But
okay, well, let me make a comparison. Okay, you can sit home and play with a Ouija board, which you're opening a lot of doors when you do that, or you can sit home and try manifesting and working this process and take your power back. Instead of giving it away, and this is basically, it's a new thought. It's a combination of a lot of different ideas, and the manifesting goes into it of you are putting every thought, every motion, every idea you have, you are programming yourself. So if you're going to program yourself to say, oh, I'm a victim, then that's what happens. And that's because you're expressing that and you're living that. But if you're programming yourself and saying, I need to think about my future because this too shall pass. And what can I do to upgrade my circumstances? Because basically we're looking at a reset right now all over the planet. It's a reset, and Mother Earth is going, whoa, where's this? This is air. Oh gosh, oxygen. Okay, well, that's a side note. But so there are other things that are happening while we're in this huge crisis moment that are saying, do we want to reset in a higher level, in a better position than we went into during lockdown? And I tell you what, we can. And so that's why your book, I think, is perfect timing. What I think is also an interesting coincidence, and maybe more than that, you have Dina Grayson, and you talked about her as being one of the people who was the discoverer of something that was very, very beneficial for people who were dealing with the Ebola crisis. So you want to bring her back into the equation? Because I thought we were talking off mic, and that's, I think, an amazing synchronicity with this timing of your book.
It really is. There's 2 points quickly, just to touch on what you said before Tina there. We can program our lives for the better or for the worse. And I believe it's in chapter 2 of the book, or chapter 3 rather, I talk about this. One of the cool things that I found in my, years of research went into this book, was that there is so much science that sounds like you're reading the coolest, spiritual textbook you've ever read. One of the things that has been discovered is, have you ever had, and I promise we're going to get to it, but have you ever had the experience, I'm sure many listeners have, where you hear or see the number 333 or 1111?
Right,
or maybe
sequentials.
You hear a word, or you hear a word like Windsor or Queen Elizabeth, or something maybe that's not always in your normal day-to-day place. And then you start seeing it everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that used to be called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. And it's because it occurs when basically that thing you just noticed or experienced or been told about just seems to and appears to give you that feeling that it's everywhere, just pops up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So what that actually is, in the last 5 to 10 years, they've discovered, and I go into detail about this in the book and how you can use it in the reverse, basically, and that's a positive thing, is that there's something called the reticular activating system in our brains. And it is the coolest thing ever. It is basically your brain filter, and it has 2 jobs, and they're very important. It focuses on what we deem important. So our goals, our beliefs, if we wake up saying, oh, it's going to be the best day ever, our reticular activating system in our brain, it is now programmed because of what we've told it to do and look for by saying it's going to be a great day, to go out and point out all the amazing and good things and experiences around you that day. It works in the opposite, obviously, as well. If you say it's a bad day, it goes and pulls those out. That's number 1. Number 2, it focuses on our survival, which is, what in the current moment will allow us to stay alive. But the greatest thing, and I give this tool in the book, and it's really easy and it's really simple, is and what I've discovered and what a lot of scientists have realized is we have the ability to actually program our reticular activating system, this massive sounding scary word in our brain, to manifest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's really easy because perception is one of the main things I talk about in the book. Not main, I'd say there's a lot of main things, but it's a fascinating discussion that we go into about how Donald Hoffman, a professor at University of California, Irvine, has discovered that evolution does not favor reality, which is a whole other discussion we can talk about in a bit. But
you just jumped off the deep end there.
Look, you're so much fun, and we talked a lot off. Like, I feel like your listeners are very smart, and if they're listening to this show, they love the deep end. So here we go.
Okay.
With the reticular activating system, let's say for me, I always used to lose my keys, and I have a Yeti mug. It's called Yeti, actually, which is funny because I know we talk about Bigfoot on here, but it's a brand of a reusable mug. So
yes.
I would have my drink in there, my water, and I lose my keys. I used to lose it all the time. So as I was teaching a workshop this past winter, I was talking about the reticular activating system, and I realized in this workshop with this very, very high powered real estate agents in Beverly Hills, because I'm like the guy that they'll call them secretly, but they don't want to tell anybody about, to come and get everybody kind of understanding how to manifest better numbers and bigger numbers or better sales or just. So it was a great group. I realized when I got home that night that, oh my God, I'm teaching about this. I write about this in my book that was at the time, not out, but I knew it was coming. And I could do the silliest thing, and I bet you it would work. And that is, I started to say out loud to my brain. It sounds a little funny, I'm not a big fan of talking out loud and sounding crazy, but if you do say it works, is the point of this. But if you say out loud, let's say you lost your keys and you happen to walk in and place them on a table that you don't normally do, and you were absent-minded and just thinking about something else. It's 10 minutes later when you realize you need your keys. If you say out loud, brain, where are my keys? And then let it go, within about 2 or 3 minutes, your reticular activating system, this is a real process in your brain, will direct your body. You will find it. I found in less than 5 minutes, whatever you've lost, because your brain still knows where it's a computer, and it took that code, it took that information, but it filtered it where you dropped your keys originally because maybe you had something else on your mind, or maybe you were thinking about whatever.
Right.
And your brain has so many things in its basically storage areas that it keeps from you. Not because it's hurting you, but because you have either not told it to focus on it, which is like the 1111, or it's not imperative for your survival. Real quick, and then we'll talk about Dina, ties right in. That real estate group that I talked to, and I did a great workshop with them. It was I had so much fun. And there was a new girl there who had just started, and one of her big goals was to get a listing worth $10 million. And this is one of the top real estate agencies and offices in the whole country. So they're big numbers. They play with everybody, the big, actors and politicians and all those types. So I said, all right, listen, do these. I have 3 really simple tools. It takes about 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night. And they're all in the book, which I would encourage everyone to go out there and read if any of this intrigues you. Mm-hmm. But I said, do the 3 tools and call me, because I knew she would get a client that would give her a listing, because she couldn't get a big listing. That was one of the goals of the company for her. So about 3 weeks later, she called me. So excited. Long story short, she had been doing her work every day, doing the tools, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night. And she was in a coffee shop, and she happened to notice outside, right next door is a bookstore. And there was a sign outside for this very well-known guy, big entrepreneur she was a huge fan of. Can't say his name for the reason you'll soon know about in 1 minute. But he was doing a book signing, a talk. And she loved this guy. She watched him on TV all the time. So she was really excited, and she had her break. She went in, caught the last 5 minutes of his little talk, and went up to him afterwards. And, they got to talking. Turns out he had a property. He wasn't from the area that he owned. He's a pretty successful guy. A property worth $11 million. And guess who got the listing? Our friend from the real estate office. Now, what she was so weirded out about, and what I love about my tools, because they're not as woo-woo as a lot of the other tools. And I love woo-woo, but these aren't woo-woo. These are very real and very easy to use. Her client, the $11 million man, said to her, it's so weird. Why didn't you come to my whole talk? And she goes, well, I didn't know it was happening. And he goes, well, there was a sign up. He lives very close by when he's in LA. He has a house close by. He doesn't live here permanently, but he lives right up the street from where the book signing was when he is here. He said, well, there's been a sign outside the bookshop for 3 weeks. And she was floored, because her brain had been filtering it out, because she was so focused on life and worried about not getting listings and not telling her brain essentially what it is that she wanted, that she had walked by this sign that would have led her to this client many times, probably 30 or 40 times, she told me, for weeks, if not longer. But it wasn't until she got into the habit of taking a minute a day to program her brain to look for opportunities which were already in her environment and her perception. She just wasn't perceiving it because she wasn't programming her brain to see it. She would have completely missed it. But because she took the time to do it, just a minute a day, her brain now, it's just like 1111, it pulled an opportunity and therefore a giant awesome manifestation right into her life. So, yes, we can program and decide right now in this reset what kind of lives we want to live. And we can also, there's a lot of big fun tools in there, but there's some little ones like that can get people started and thinking outside of the box. So speaking of outside of the box, I am rambling, but I hope people, I hope I don't lose them.
No.
I just want to touch on Dr. Dina Grayson. So like you mentioned, please look her up. Fabulous, incredibly brilliant person. I call her my sister from another mister. If you go on my Twitter, which is in reverse, so it's Christian Royce instead of Royce Christyn. But if you go on my Twitter, you'll see us always bantering. But we've been friends for, a very long time, years and years. And I call her my sister from another mister, and I'm her brother from another mother. And we are really that close. But she is, I'm so humbled and just like, I always go, why are you friends with me? You're too brilliant. She invented and worked on one of the only, I believe, and don't quote me 100% if it's, I believe I'm right with the actual wording here, but cures for Ebola. I do know that she went to Obama with it in 2015, but she was on the team that worked on the Ebola crisis and helped to fix the Ebola crisis. She's worked on incredible developments in science and medicine. She is married to a wonderful guy, Alan Grayson, who is also a brilliant lawyer. He was a congressman for 8 years. Really smart people. But Dr. Grayson has worked on pandemics. This is her bread and butter. I also, and I mean bread and butter, not financially, but this is her wheelhouse. This is what she knows. And she breathes and lives this. This is her career. So she knew back in December, she told me that this was going to be as big of a deal as it is. And she was really out there sounding the alarm, not in a scary way, but just trying to let people know in January, February, she was going on every TV show that would have her. And, she does incredible videos. I encourage anyone out there and everyone to look up Dr. Dina Grayson. She's really easy to find, but she has great YouTube videos. She's doing things almost daily just to help people feel better and give them some really easy tools and tips and some reality about the situation we're in. But anyway, she is brilliant. She worked on the Ebola cure. She's friggin' fantastic. And she is one of the people who endorsed my book.
Yeah.
It's really weird, like you said, and very serendipitous. Is obviously none of the coronavirus was even a thought in anyone's mind when the endorsements, books take about a year and a half. And the science was one of the most important things to me in this book, because the book does a little bit of a 180 in the best way possible, as you read, in the middle of the book, because the first 5 chapters out of 10, first 5 are about manifesting, and there's some really fun tools in there in science, but chapter 6 onwards talks about some really out there and crazy technologies and sciences, and I tried to put together things in a very linear way to help people see this incredible new bridge between what I say science and spirituality is. And she gave me the nicest endorsement ever. I'm not going to repeat it, but having her on the back of the book, and now she is, actively working on educating and people on the coronavirus and trying to figure out how to fix it, fix the whole situation. Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. It's very, it's more. I don't think it's a coincidence. Just like I don't think anything is. Sometimes I do what I don't, because just the fact that I'm grateful that I put in there for people. Right in the introduction of the book to go see a doctor if they're sick, it's just one of those things. I also, again, this book was written in November and December of 2018 with a few minor additions, maybe only 30 pages worth over the course of 2019 as I went through the editing process. But, I also have the example in my favorite chapter is chapter 9, which is about memetics and memes. And I use the example of toilet paper, which we don't have to talk about because everyone's talking about toilet paper right now. But
it's got pictures. You've got pictures too, just in case people didn't know.
I do. Well, and it's funny because, the books, the physical copies, they were printed, months ago. Obviously the book just came out, but it's funny because the average person, most people are smart enough and they know just from life that books are not, made overnight. It's a process like a film or anything else. And, I had a really, so funny, I had a great email yesterday. Someone contacted me from my website and they said, I am blown away, but I'm so confused. How did you know that there was going to be a toilet paper panic, and how did you know this? And I explained, it was just the example that I felt guided to put in there. It's a really funny example, and anybody out there who reads the book, I'll save the punchline for you. But it's based on science, and it was just something that I intuitively, I guess you can call it, felt would be pertinent for people to read about come 2020, and here we are.
Okay. I'm going to say this isn't just your ordinary toilet paper. Okay, so if you are creative and at home and have time alone, you can experiment some of the things that are being done with this particular toilet paper. All right.
Yeah, it's special toilet paper. It definitely makes you think about where your thoughts are coming from in your head. I'll say that.
Yes.
When you look at the pictures, and it's not gross for anybody out there. It's absolutely for all ages. So don't worry. It's very clean toilet paper.
Okay. Royce, just a second though. But the language, which I find fascinating, dealing with a pandemic right now, the language in his thought book or his book, Thought Contagion, Aaron Lynch. Okay, there's that one. Read a newspaper, catch a mind virus. The language in this book also mirrors our reality at the moment. So you didn't think ahead.
That's weird. I didn't even think about that.
Okay.
I said sounds so silly.
Yeah.
I know it's my book, but you're right. Go on. I love this.
See, that's what I think about this, is that there's a lot more going on than just, I'm going to write a book and this will be a fabulous idea. And this is an idea whose time is really come. And this is important for anyone who wants to take back the power and realize that we are participating. This isn't happening to us. We're happening to it. and as we shift and we start being proactive instead of reactive and put out some of the mind drama, close out some of the, we can't do this and this is, all these really huge catastrophes that are being predicted, and go back into, well, what can I do in this moment at this time? And that's where I like chapter 8, because that's putting it all together. Okay, you still read the whole book, but chapter 8 lays out the details and the fine print, the daily want list, the belief list, the script, the nightly journal, all of those things. And that's where I think you really sum it up here and, give people a template to work with.
Yes, yeah, and I wish I could sit here and say, oh yes, of course I purposely added that, and I'm such a high and mighty author. I knew exactly what I was doing, but you're making points that not even I thought about. But that's part of the best thing about writing is it's so guided. It's such a guided process as far as there's something otherworldly, and I don't talk about this that much. And every friend of mine who writes, and even my friends from my days of acting in TV, there's sort of this whisper, and it's the fact. You're in a state where you're receiving the universe and you're being guided. The timing of the book I think is great, and yes, chapter 8 is awesome because people can put it all together. And anybody out there listening, that's the greatest thing. The whole book can be summarized really in chapter 8. It's easy. I wanted this to be fun. Yeah. I wanted this to be easy, but I also wanted it to be educational. I wanted it to be something that people, really learned from and really got a lot out of. But you mentioned something that I'd love to touch on, which is time. And I don't know how much you remember about the I believe it's chapter 7, but there's some insane things happening right now with time. And the science out there, one of my favorite ones, is not just quantum mechanics and quantum physics, which you hear so much in New Age books and self-help books and soft books, but you have audiologists, people who study hearing, who have discovered that they can prove this much. They can prove that your brain right now knows the sentences that I'm going to say before my mind and me and my brain even know or have formulated the thought or know what I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. And I talk about this pretty extensively, and I cite quite a few research papers and textbooks and chapters in other books that talk about this from scientists, which I am not one of, but they are realizing very quickly that the future seems to be predicting the past, and that's a really weird thing, that the future is affecting the now. And that is really hard. It was hard for me to wrap my head around at first, but this idea of time, I had no idea. They didn't teach me this in school, but the agreed upon theory of time right now is something called the block time theory. I don't know what you thought about that, but when I first started researching, and it was very clear, and anybody out there, don't take my word for it. Go out and do some research, because the whole theory out there that all scientists believe in when they're trying to understand and explain time is that we live in something called a blocked universe. I don't know if you want to go into it too much, but it's basically fascinating that these scientists who we listen to, and just everyone from Stephen Hawking to Neil deGrasse Tyson, I mean, whoever you want to fill in there, they have this incredible theory that the time that we understand it is essentially if you can imagine a three-dimensional square. There's actually there's an image of it in the book. There's some back and forth arguments about it, but basically it's not just that all time is happening at once, but that it's already happened and it already didn't happen. And that's what's so interesting about what you touched on as far as us affecting what comes next.
Yeah.
In some ways, we've already done that.
Yes.
Which means that, and there's a lot of tools, really easy things you can do that we talk about in the book. And I hope people out there read it and they find their own tools. Please email me, let me know. The book just came out and I've gotten some incredible messages from people who are creating their own little tools to deal with the pandemic and deal with how their own mind works and thinks when it comes to what we're going through on lockdown. But, when you really get into the time theory and all this stuff, it's not hard. It sounds to some people like it might be not this very easy thing to understand, but I feel like one of the things that I hopefully accomplish for people is laying it out there in a way that not only, you can understand it, I know that, but also that you could start to understand it enough to play around with it and see how much you really are affecting your current reality. I mean, you talk a lot on this show, I know, from what I know of you from my own research and my, first always like to look into where I'm going on the show. And we talked beforehand off mic, you talked about a lot of paranormal things and UFOs and all sorts of really fascinating stuff that I think we are getting closer and closer to understanding better and maybe getting some interesting new viewpoints because, and not just from our side of things, but from the scientific world too, because there is so much out there that we aren't perceiving. There's so much out there with time that we don't understand. The example I love to use, I put it in my book, it's Donald Hoffman, the professor I mentioned, who talks about perception, is if you think about our brains as a super quantum computer, then you have to think about what we see or what we think we see in our environment as the equivalent of a computer desktop. When you look at a file on your desktop or an icon for the internet, let's say, that's not really a file. That's not really a little compass for Safari on the internet. There's diodes and electrons and all sorts of crazy mechanics going on behind that, what we see on the computer desktop screen as a file. And in that file might be a really important questionnaire or a really important paper, but really it's a representation of zeros and ones, and that's how the computer interprets it, so it's easier to perceive and understand from the computer's end and obviously from us, the human perspective. And if you think of your brain as that computer with all of the zeros and ones and then all those amazing components that I can't even understand and completely that go into the computer, and you think of our eyes as the projection that it is coming up with, the equivalent of the desktop, it gives you a lot of power because you realize it's all something that you can control with your emotions, your thoughts, and your feelings, but not just control, you can power back and you can have a lot of fun with it and you can really shift and change things in your life and you can understand weird paranormal things that people say are weird and paranormal. Maybe it's not so weird. Maybe it's just a question of perception. My dad my dad is one of the most not buttoned up and laced up. He's a great guy, but he was never as into anything paranormal or UFO as my grandparents and my mom and that side of the family was. But he had a crazy experience when he was 19 years old back in Philadelphia that involved what he swears is a UFO. And if we want to go to that story, we can, because it's really interesting.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, and see, that's what I glommed on in your book. I have to, of course, find something. Well, is there anything Bigfoot? Is there anything UFO, ghost? And guess what? Guess what? Yes, it comes up page 105. Okay, for you following along at home, page 105. Turn there. All right, and it's because it's supposed to be basically thinking how all of this time slip stuff, because you also go on and play. I love the Matrix on Reddit. There's one, things in the Matrix, and you picked up the
Matrix, yeah.
Yes, and there's what, the Randonauts?
Randonauts, yes. I love them.
Okay.
That is something I encourage. That's the quantum computer app I was talking about at the beginning. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So these kinds of things, and I've experienced my own time slips. I've experienced the ET contact. I mean, I can get into all sorts of stuff and go off the deep end, but we're not doing that. So this stuff I know is real.
We can stay on the deep end. We can go deeper. Well, your listeners, I think they're pretty smart. They're listening to you. They're pretty open.
Well, this is stuff that our science doesn't have a way to quantify. And yet what I think is happening and what I see happening and what I have been hearing and picking up in my own little time stream is that there are more people saying, look, I saw a UFO. I had a ghost experience. There's paranormal stuff. And I think it's because instead of being lockstep the way we usually are, okay, 9 to 5, la, 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 everything goes in sync, it is a sequence, it's all on schedule, and there's no deviation. Right now, there's a huge deviation and people are going, what the heck's going on? Did I see what I thought I saw? So there's an opening, a window for people to look at different things, and they're being exposed to things they wouldn't normally, like the woman who went to the store or went to that bookstore and he said, well, the sign's been out for 3 weeks, because she didn't deviate. Every day she did the same pattern, repeat, reset, repeat. Right now, there's no repeat. So we're going, what's up? So so that's where I'm going with that. How's that?
We're in timeless time in a way. It's really interesting and it's exciting to me because there is a whole section of the book and it talks about what this incredible forum on Reddit. For those of you out there listening, if you don't know, Reddit is one of the coolest websites I think in the world. It's the equivalent of more of an old school internet message board, but you have millions of people from all over the planet who, there's fan pages for whatever you like. If you like a TV show or there's ones for recipes and cooking, and it's pretty much anything you can think of, there's a Reddit page for it. And with the Reddit page itself, it's like a forum where anybody can, there's rules and there's moderators, but anyone can join. It's free, and you can tell your stories or give your recipes. Or in the case of the forum called Glitch in the Matrix, people write in their tales and their stories, real life stuff of things like the woman who on page 105, like you just mentioned, is who she moved into a house with her family. She was looking for a house rather, and there was a adorable poodle next door. I'm paraphrasing the story here, but basically that was one of the reasons that the family chose to move into the house, because the neighbor had a poodle, and this family used to have a poodle. And cut to 3 months later, they finally meet this neighbor who had the poodle in the yard that made them choose this house. And they started saying, "Oh, what's the poodle's name?" And we haven't seen it. And the lady, the neighbor, was just stunned, and she goes, "My poodle died 7 years ago. And there's no dog here." And that's a glitch. That's what people call a glitch, because something clearly with time happened. There's a lot of interesting glitch in the matrix examples that are real life stories that I talk about in the book. And you just made such an incredible point, because people are not on repeat right now, and it is either something that I think people listening, you can look at it as terrifying, or look at it like I do as invigorating and exciting, because you have the chance to explore what's around you. There's so much that is in your world already that is just amazing and incredible and paranormal and cool and not paranormal, but so cool. And we have this time right now that has been given to us. I'm not going to name names, but I'm very fortunate to have a lot of very, very well-known people who endorsed the book and that are printed in there. But one of them actually reached out last night, and they said to me, "What's going on, Royce? What is happening? What is actually happening?" And my feeling is to actually pass the question on you, because you just described, I want your opinion, because you just said it in one of the best ways I've heard it so far, which is, it's a reset, yes, but it's also like a pause where you can take the time to adjust things. It's almost as if you were rehearsing. This is just my background, but rehearsing a big play or a big show on Broadway, and it's not in front of an audience yet. Or you take a break in the middle of the dress rehearsal and you readjust the set, and you change the lines, and you get everything perfect, because everything is it's able to be paused and played with and adjusted to make it so that when the play button gets pressed and you go back on stage, everything is how you want it.
From my perspective, intuitively, which I've been doing for a while, there was a warning, and the language I got was that it was going to reshape what we did. I've written about it. There's more to it, but so with that, and then my word is a reset. This is the fun stuff I get. My husband and I were out walking. We can't detour. We see 3 people coming forward. One is a single walker, and the other is a couple, and they have a black dog between them. And my husband, since we have 2 dogs, and they sometimes get excited, the little one gets a little toy as soon as he said, "Hey, the dog up there." "Yeah, I know, I see." Give the dog the toy. And then we get closer, and they stop in front of us off to the side about 10 feet away, and then they're saying, "Oh, your dogs are so well behaved. We have 3 schnauzers, and they would never, blah, blah, blah." And they go on. They can't take them on the walk. They're not walk friendly. And I said to him, Did you see something missing? And he said, "They didn't have a dog." Yeah. We both saw a black dog between them, walking and about the size of a Doberman or a Lab. Okay, the black dog, and that's why I wrote about it, black dog intuition, or because what that means for me, and this is all different for people who have totem spirits, animal guides, whatever, and intuition or time slip. You can go so many different directions, but that's mine. So I interpret it as a time. The black dog is usually a warning and a protection. But we have to do the right thing, and that's different for every single person. But right now, it's a big deal. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense, and it gave me chills because it's such a great, fantastic explanation, and it resonates with me. And also on top of that, I'd like to add 2 things. Is I am a big believer in animals and totems. And when they come into my life, there's just a different quality, and it's never, if you're listening and never experienced it, or if you have, you'll know what we're talking about. But if you never have, you might now, because
you'll pay attention. Quality, you'll pay attention.
Yes, exactly. The reticular activating system is going to go right to work, and it's true though. But I'm sure you know too. Like there was the added, I would say, message from the universe of pay attention with, hey, this dog was there and then it wasn't. It wasn't there the whole time, or
right.
That was an extra. Hey, this is a totem, just in case. And the universe does that to me too. It does it to a lot of people. When it's an animal message, it'll give you maybe an extra sign. But I always notice the quality. Birds. There's a lot of birds here in LA County where I live, and there's people don't usually realize this, how mountainous and there's just so many forests and trees, and there's a lot of green here. And I live in an area right at the foothills of one of the big mountain ranges in LA, and with lots of trees and birds and everything. But there's a regular bird that'll fly by all the time, and I don't, I know it's not a sign, but then you'll have something very interesting like I had just about a month ago that you reminded me of, and I'm so glad that you did, because I didn't write it down, and I write everything down. But
yes.
Very late. Yeah. And I 2 very odd things, and it followed for about a week, which is how I know. And I always look up to see what the totem means. But earlier in the evening, I usually go to bed at 8, but I get up around 3:30 every day. So everybody out there listening, don't judge. I don't wake up at 12 and stay up for 6 hours. So I get up really early, and I go to bed usually really early compared to most people. But it was earlier in the night, around, I'd say, this is right before the mood, so maybe I don't even know, maybe 6 o'clock at night. But there's just the sun was going down, and we have hummingbirds. That's not out of the ordinary. There's it feels like millions of them sometimes in around. But baby red ones, I had to even Google to see if red ones were something that were endemic to here. But came up right in front of my face and said hello, as I would say, and I knew that was a totem. And the hummingbirds are really, really positive totem. And stayed and hovered for a good, this isn't hyperbole, maybe 2 minutes. I mean, it was long. It was a while. Yeah. To the point where I was like, okay, I'm listening. And it was a weird time of night for, like I said, it was getting dark out, so it was weird for him to be flying around. But about 3 hours later, I was actually researching. I just finished my 2nd book, the manuscript for it, that'll be coming out hopefully next year. Delved into some more of these topics that are out there and paranormal, but I don't think they're going to feel out there anymore after this. Yeah. But anyway, I don't get spooked at all. I mean, it's rare, but I'm not ashamed to say that I was researching and writing some stuff, and I have a little outdoor area that I take my laptop out into in my backyard and just write. I have a big backyard, I should add, that's wooded, and it's completely surrounded on all three sides.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't see the neighbors, and it's almost like a little woods, if you will. But the noise was so loud and clear, and I didn't have the outdoor light on. I was just walking out, didn't have the backyard light on yet. And it was clearly a few feet from me, and it was giant, and made this noise, and I didn't know what it was. It was an animal. And I we have mountain lions and coyotes. I knew it wasn't that. It had wings, but I ran inside, and I went to my fiance, and I was like, I need to find this noise right now. I think it was an owl. So I actually went on YouTube, and I started searching for owl sounds, and I finally found the exact type of owl, which I'm sorry to say, at this exact moment, I don't remember off the top of my head. I do have it written down, though.
Yeah.
But I found it pretty quickly, and I went back outside to do some writing, and it was actually talking about what we're going through right now, and with lockdown, and it was coming. It hadn't started yet, but I knew it was coming, and it was just kind of this weird feeling that was in the air, and this owl was just talking to me all night, and it wasn't a territorial. I was able to listen to all the different types of noises, and it wasn't a mating call. It was right up in the tree, maybe not even honestly 15 feet from me, very close. So he's still around. The owl and that hummingbird. Almost. I mean, the hummingbird comes and goes, but I'd say in the last however many weeks it's been now, the owl has been ever present. Now, what's interesting is there's a lot of mythology and totem and animal medicine. And you can read a lot about owls. Yeah. And I'm still figuring out what the meaning is, because I usually I've had so many, I grew up in this is chapter 1 of the book basically is, I grew up in a really weird family, where they grew up teaching me about all sorts of odd and interesting and unique things. And I was raised on new thought when my friends, in school and elementary school were going to synagogue or Hebrew school or Catholic school or whatever. I was, on Sundays with my grandma and my mom learning about, new thought and creating your own reality and all sorts of weird and cool and wonderful things like this. But I do know that when the owl keeps coming back, and it feels very comforting. It's not scary to me, but I'm curious now as to what your intuition says, because it's been such it's like a release every time I see him or her, and the energy almost feels female, but I don't know that it is. But it's a very calm energy. But it's been basically since coronavirus hit the U.S. and now since lockdown, she comes and finds me, or he comes and finds me, and then this owl makes the most beautiful noises every night. Yeah. And I don't stay up very late, so that was one night I was asleep. But earlier and earlier, I'll hear him or her outside, our window or right in the back. Our kitchen's right off from the backyard, so we hear it a lot if I get up for some water in the night. So it's I'm sure there's a lot of people out there listening, and maybe hopefully will help. Maybe make them realize that they're also getting some messages. And you can Google easily animal medicine at totem. I usually just will Google owl totem or owl, whatever the animal is to find the message. But there's so many messages with owls. But this one feels very comforting. So for you and for what you talk about, I'm sure you might have some more insight, because owls are connected to a lot of things in the paranormal world too, right?
Yeah. Well, and for one thing, they're also ET. The people who have the ET experiences, the alien abduction, those kind of things.
Right. That's one of the big.
That's a huge.
Here, right?
Yeah, that's a huge symbol. I think Mike, is it McClelland? Mike, he writes about the stories, the owl messengers, and all that. I don't have it at the top of my mind right now, but for me, I also go with it as a totem animal, and so it doesn't mean
that's what it feels like.
Yes,
to me,
each
personally.
person has to do this, and what it would for me, it is an identity for a symbol that you associate with what is the meaning of owl. And for me, you're getting answers and things in the dream plane, because the owl is an in between. And so also in your dream plane and in your daydream, night dream, you're having, at this point, a huge reset, connect with the next phase, the next steps on your path. And that's part of what this is about, because it's like a very core. It's the symbol here is that connection of seeing between night and day. So between the sheets of time, between your tuning in and receptive.
Yeah.
And so that's where it, to me, is that symbol relates that the receptivity that you have of going within and then paying attention to that intuition and, being that, they would call it a hollow bone, a channel for information that would be helpful right now for people to hear, to get people through a time that's very chaotic, where there's a lot of upheaval and uncertainty, and going back to center and saying, we were born for this. And this is what we do. And we come forward and come out of the closet with our real gifts while we were practicing before everything stopped. And we were practicing doing what might be helpful for right now. So I'm putting a whole lot of words to that. But you also have the ability within you to understand, as you're saying, it feels comforting. It's a support. It's a reminder. It's a refresh of, hey, you got this. And obviously you do.
Wow. That I hope so. And I can say it, but I want so badly, and I feel so strongly that, we all have something to contribute. And what you just said is incredible, by the way. Thank you. I totally flipped this around accidentally and started interviewing you my outfit. But no, that just, I guess I have tears in my eyes, seriously, in a good one.
Okay.
Because that resonated. I hope that I what I teach and what I do for with my writing and everything else does help people, and like you just said it perfectly. I feel like I've been practicing my whole life a bunch of different things that could hopefully maybe would work, and I don't think we're all in this together. Like I said, no one alone could do it, but whoever I can help, if it's 2 people or 20, that's amazing. You just triggered something really interesting, because the hummingbird to me is also very joyful, and
yes,
it's a red hummingbird,
yes,
and that it's day and night, and something that I was resisting for so long doing. For those listening out there, I come from an acting background. That's what I did professionally for most of my childhood and all of my teenage years and some of my adult years even. And I transitioned into directing and then writing over the last decade. And this is what I love to do more than anything is teach stuff like this. But I had been resisting kind of putting all those skills together and doing a very unique and fun show online for free, free for everybody. It's a YouTube show. But one thing that we're going to do that's really cool is anybody out there who has a Google makes them. They're $5. You can get them at Walmart. Even in the lockdown, they have them. But the VR headsets, not the really expensive ones. You can get the little cheap ones, and you don't even need one, because if you have a smartphone or even a laptop or any sort of device, you can still use and experience how cool this show is going to be. But it's going to be. We just ordered it. It'll be, the studio's already set up. I was resisting it for a long time, but at the point of this, I'm going to make it 1 minute. But it's going to be in 360. So you'll actually, I wanted people to be able to feel like when they're in lockdown that they could still be part of an audience or be part of a show. Mm-hmm. So the camera is 360. So you can either wear a headset or you could do it on your phone.
Yay.
And you can scroll around as I walk around, and I'm going to have guests and on video and teach all sorts of things, but it's going to be great because it's in the round. So it's going to be a lot. People are going to get sick real quickly, I think, of just watching straight videos, just watching something. This is going to allow them to not escape, because that's normally what it might be, but just to actually maybe lock in and connect.
It's engaging. It's engaging.
Yeah, and connect. And, I'm just going to be teaching and talking about all this stuff, everything we've talked about here and more. But I was resisting doing a show for honestly 2 or 3 years. I resisted doing the book, because it was fighting my instincts until I finally aligned and just listened to, I call them my guides, my angels. Everybody has something, their gut. And I knew that it was time. And then this all happened. And, I had a book tour planned and scheduled all around the world. I was going to Australia and on May 1st, it comes out there. And then in middle of May in Europe. And I was really excited. But when this happened, I wasn't sad. I wasn't bummed out. I was excited for the fact that I could just
for all the video press interviews over the next month or two. I could wear something nice, at the top, and then wear my sweatpants because no one will see. But
yes,
I wanted everybody. I had all these calls from. I remember Dina, Dr. Dina. We talked about earlier. She, we talked all the time, but she called and the sweetest thing. She was so concerned that I would be devastated. A few weeks ago, when the publisher finally said, "Look, we're going to postpone everything, and we're going to have to do everything from your home." And I said, "That's fine. Let's roll with it. This is all for a reason." So I'm excited too. Even with the workshops and the classes, there's one I was supposed to teach at East West Bookstore in Mountain View, which is the biggest metaphysical bookstore in the country, if not the world, on Saturday. And if you go on my Facebook, you can get tickets now. Anybody in the world's going to come because it's interactive. But I'm not plugging that. My point here is the OWL. All these ideas and how to do this. Really, I think it's going to be a fun show for people, and it's not going to be super high or expensive. We're on lockdown. I had to makeshift the studio with what I had. Luckily, I could have some film equipment from my prior days as an actor and a filmmaker. But I got all those ideas that night. And when it was weird. I would hear the owl, and I was just that's when this kept coming to me that I was resisting, and finally, honestly, yesterday, officially made the decision to do this. So by the time your listeners hear this, it'll probably have just been starting, probably right around the next week or two. It'll be out there for people, and I want something that people can feel and and learn from, and that's free. A lot of people are in a unique position right now with work and don't have a job, and I don't want people to have to pay for everything. I mean, that's the thing about my book. Something the life you want. I'm not one of those authors who, teachers who's like, no, buy my book and then I'll tell you. I write articles all the time. I give my information away. My feeling is, there's so much out there for free, and especially now with lockdown, like I don't care. I put it all out there. It's about hopefully helping people for me, and I look at it like this. I give so much away for free. I don't mind. I love it because I love seeing people manifest what they want, and I love seeing people feel better, have fun, and see how easy it could be. And if they like it, they can thank me by buying a book. It's kind of the inverse of the normal way. But I feel like the OWL is directly connected to this really fun web video TV show that we're just about to start, because I finally just let go and said, all right, I guess, and I think a lot of people, I say this not to toot or talk about myself endlessly. I say it because I bet you there's someone out there listening, if not a few people, but there's someone out there who, whether they have an owl and a hummingbird or whatever animal totem or not, maybe this is part of this reset we're going through, is just relax into it. And it's a message to do that thing that you finally, or maybe are close to wanting to do, that you've been thinking about, maybe resisting, like I was resisting the show and even writing for years. Yeah. We all have no excuses. There's nowhere to go. And that's not a negative, because it's happening everywhere. You can't, the universe, or whatever you want to call it, has sort of given us, like you said, a reset, but also a pause to evaluate. And I hate the word pause. There's not really a good word for it, but I think you know what I mean, Wendy. It's like a timeless space right now. Mm-hmm. It's like a sphere where we can choose it's like a choose your own adventure novel, but we're so fortunate to have time, because there's no excuses not to do what we've been guided to do. And so many of us, whether you consider yourself intuitive or whether you think, Wendy and I sound brilliant or crazy, it doesn't matter, because whoever you are and wherever you are, you have this deep core, fun, flowing mission and thing that you want to do, and you've probably been hearing and feeling that you've wanted to try out or do your whole life. And I bet you can do it, whoever you are out there listening, because even under lockdown, because with all the abilities and things that we have right now at our disposal, we can be outside of the box and creative. And, my mom, who actually is co-writing the third book with me right now, she said something really interesting, which is, well, two things. She said, one, if this had happened 10 years ago, we're so lucky it happened when it did, because the tech wasn't even there, the technology of communication and video and smartphones, it was there, but not like it wasn't as accessible, and everybody didn't have it like they do now. So we're lucky because we all can really, really do interesting things. And the other thing she said is that this is going to change everything. It's going to make every company reevaluate. Maybe companies that were against work from home, this forces them to see that people who want to work from home can thrive working from home. This is going to change the way businesses do business, the way we, see entertainment. I mean, off mic, we talked about, obviously I still have many friends in Hollywood, and, we're not going to have new movies. Most of our favorite TV shows, if you like TV or even Netflix, anything scripted, a lot of them had to stop. I have friends work on some really big shows, one on NBC. They shot everything up until their season finale. So there's other shows that are 5 episodes away. We're going to have a period of a year, probably. We're not getting a lot of new TV that's scripted, at least, or film. So everything is going to shift of how we view things, how we consume things, but also how we contribute and how we make decisions about ourselves and the world around us. So I feel so strongly that there's a word, and I also said off mic to Wendy, for those out there listening, really, maybe the next book after the second and third one I'll write is we got to figure out new language, because there's a quote by Walter Russell, who wrote a book called The Universal One back in the early 1910s, and he basically says that language is the key, because we have so many things we can't describe that if we only had words, it would make it so accessible to everybody. We have these phenomenal and incredible things. I'm paraphrasing to almost. I hope Walter Russell's spirit doesn't hear me, but I like to say that things that aren't named are the easiest to hide by those whose names are the biggest, or things with no word or name to describe them are the most dangerous and the most powerful, because if we know their use and their function, then they can be the most incredible things. But we need the words to describe it. So whatever this is in this reset, I love that word. That word's right. But also it's timeless. There's a quality of, and we've all had that. Maybe if you're home from work, or you're on a break for a holiday or whatever, where you feel like, oh, what day is it? I don't even know. I've been on holiday vacation, and but we're all in this very timeless space, and I think there's a power in that, because we are being encouraged to go for goals. I think people, one of the things I accidentally did in the book, like you said, I don't know if it was an accident, but I encourage people to think outside the box and just really go for not just the big things, but for the seemingly mundane or smaller things that you want in life. And everybody has an opportunity, and there's no excuse not to do it. We all have this crazy, amazing opportunity. And I think reframing how we perceive this and look at it might just be a key to getting out of it. So to answer your original question, I thought I answered it earlier, but I do think in a way we can all script our way out of it by the way we perceive the world around us. And that's not anything hard to do. You don't have to read my book to do it. You just have to make a decision now to really have fun, take a minute, and have fun doing this, because fun and play is so important. And it's easy. All this is easy when you have fun, but take a minute and find, or just remember what it is that you want to do, and start thinking outside the box of how to do it. And that could be really simple, like just laying around, or maybe you need to meditate or relax or watch TV, because maybe you haven't done that in years. Or maybe it's something bigger. Wendy, I think you need to write a book, another book. I'm telling you right now, I said it off mic. I'm saying it to everybody, like whatever it is, for anybody, though, really, and take this sort of timeless space. It's the time to do the directional adjustment in our lives. And, we can use a lot of tools like scripting, and there's tons of things out there that we already have at our disposal that we're now becoming aware of, that we can use to make the best of this. And I advise everybody, obviously, please follow the CDC guidelines, follow the World Health guidelines. I'm not saying don't be safe. Say what your local officials and everybody else. We need to listen, because the best way to look at this is this isn't I can't go outside, I can't do anything, I'm not sick, I'm fine. Well, think of it like this. We're actually thinking of it positively. Like, I'm being kind to somebody else by saying it. I'm helping somebody who might not be in the same position as me, or it might be trickier for them health-wise. And I think that you'll feel better about that. Everybody will, but also, follow those guidelines. But when you're home, it's time to evaluate and have fun and just go for it. Think outside the box and just maybe finally, even if it's by yourself, get out your phone notes or your little notepad or whatever it is and just write down one thing that you've been wanting to do your whole life and find a way to do it in this wild, cool, and endlessly open environment that we're in. It's time. And I think that's what this is all about.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. The book is out now, available anywhere you can buy books. If there's something you want to add, you connect with Royce, because obviously he's in the work mode now, and he's going to go full speed ahead with book number 2, 3, and 4, did I hear?
Yeah. 2 is already done. So,
okay.
3 is halfway there. So yeah, please connect with me. I'm really easy to get a hold of. I'm on Twitter, Facebook. I love Twitter. I use it a lot, but I do read my own emails. So if you contact me through the website, it does get sent to me. Give me a few days, but I usually I try to get back to everybody. So if anybody out there wants to say hi, or you're bored, or you want to just chat, shoot me an email. Contact me through the site, and I'm always there. And my book is Scripting the Life You Want. And yes, it's available everywhere.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. And I'm looking forward to book number 2.
Thank you. So am I. I'm really excited about it.
When things feel a bit chaotic, Instacart helps deliver milk and sausage. Add a little life to your cart. Get stuff from literally all your stores, from baby wipes to albacore. Add a little life to your cart. Instacart helps get your groceries. Your first 3 deliveries are free.
Download Instacart. Add life to cart. Terms apply.
Instacart shoppers know groceries. They know that you can't make guacamole with rock-hard avocados. They know how to quickly find those peanut butter pretzels you can never find. And they keep you in the know by giving you updates about your order along the way. Let Instacart shoppers help take shopping off your plate so you can get time and energy back for what really matters. Visit instacart.com or download the app to get free delivery on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum order $10. Additional terms apply. Instacart. Add life to cart.